Hey everyone, welcome to another video. In this video I'm gonna be ranking everything I own from Nabla. I by far don't own everything from this brand, but I do own quite a few things and I talk about them quite often. It's one of my favorite brands and I thought it would be fun to just do kind of like a roundup of everything I have to give you more of a sense of what are like my true favorites, what I like the most, what I like the least. So I'm pretty excited to share some of my thoughts with you about this brand. So let's get right into this video. So if you haven't been on my channel before, my name is Marley and I love making YouTube videos about makeup and beauty. I love trying out new makeup, I love trying out new things, but I also love to chat about all the releases as well. So if that sounds good to you, then don't forget to subscribe. I usually upload about 2 to 3 videos a week and I would love to see you again on my channel. So if you're new here, Nabla is definitely one of my favorite brands. I'm really into indie makeup. This is an Italian indie brand and they do some really great products, but not everything I love as much. Some of these things by Nabla are like my top favorites. Some of them I'm a little bit like iffy about. It's not like I think any of this is like really bad, but there definitely are some things that I like a bit less. So I have quite a few things here in front of me. Let's start with the thing that I put at the bottom. And the thing that I put at the bottom is actually this Dreamy Creamy liquid lipstick in the shade Vicious. I actually really like this formula. It's really hydrating. It's a beautiful shade, but it just doesn't really work for me because it just bleeds outside of my lip line too easily. I can't really eat, talk, drink too much when wearing this lipstick. It's such a beautiful shade. It's so gorgeous, like this kind of deeper red. Beautiful. If this would work, I would love it. But it's just, I can't really wear it. I don't know how to wear this. I can maybe wear this for like 10 seconds to take a picture and then it's already looking kind of weird, and I don't really have like super textured skin around my lips. I don't really have that many lines and still it seeps into the lines that apparently are there, and I'm kind of sad about that. So that's why I put this last, and I wish this worked. Because the other shades that I have of this formula I really like, but this just is not my personal favorite. Maybe if you never have any problems with products bleeding outside of your lip line, then maybe you can go for this one. But I wouldn't really recommend this one. It's not my favorite of the Dreamy Creamy liquid lipsticks. Next up I put this brush set. This is, I don't know what the name of this is. I will put it on the screen, but they did like 3 different brush sets that were kind of inspired by different stones almost. I guess then this would be like the ruby brush set. These brushes are good quality. They feel very nice. They are synthetic, but they kind of feel like they're real hair brushes. And I do use them, but they're not my absolute favorite. I feel like most of these brushes don't really have a shape that I can get along with, that I really like to use. I think some just have a little bit of an awkward shape, are a little bit too big. This one I use a lot, this spoolie, and this one I use for liner. This smaller one, I really like using this actually. It's nice for a precise application in the crease. But besides that, I'm not like the biggest fan of the shapes. So if you don't mind a bigger eye brush, if you think you will enjoy something like this, it's definitely good quality. I don't put it here. I didn't put it here because it's bad. It's just not my personal favorite, not something I personally grab for a lot. I have other brushes that I like more, but it's good quality. It's pretty good. I don't hate it. From now on, like, nothing I really hate. I like most things, but some things are just like really good and some things are just okay. And I feel with the brush set, it's kind of like just okay. I don't regret buying it, but it's also not something that I would really miss if I didn't have it. So next up is the Midnight Cutie palette. This is a newer palette in my collection. This is a newer release by Nabla. And this is my least favorite palette that Nabla has done. Some of these shadows are really good, but some just kind of disappointed me. I just felt like this dark blue was a bit too dry and hard to blend. I didn't really like the light blue one in here. It's like that cream to powder formula, but I didn't really feel like it worked with the light blue. And for me, I would have liked for this blue to be a little bit deeper, so these blend in together a bit more. I feel like it's kind of limiting because of these mattes that don't work like perfectly for me. This Quiet Storm shade is really beautiful. It's like a purple to teal duochrome with a lot of shimmer. This Sapphire shade also really beautiful and really like creamy. It's like a really beautiful blue shimmer. I still like most of this palette, but it was just a little bit disappointing to me. I think I'm gonna use it more. I'm not gonna like get rid of it or anything. It's not that bad. But it's just not what I was expecting. It's just not up to par with other Nabla eyeshadow palettes. I just didn't love this one as much. Also this shade, it's like nice, but what is it doing in here? Why is it here? I didn't need that one. I felt like that was a little bit unnecessary. Next up I have this face brush. This is, I believe, the cheek shaper, but it's kind of like worn off. This is kind of like a cheek brush that you can use for highlighter or blush. This once again feels like real hair but is synthetic. It feels really good. It feels like high quality. I bought this to use with the highlighter, but I ended up using a different brush. I didn't love this brush as much. For me personally, it's a little bit too fluffy. I don't love a blush brush that is too fluffy, because I just really want to control when I'm placing down my blush. I don't know, it's just that my face is a little bit smaller. I don't have a lot of like space. I can go overboard really quickly. I have to be pretty precise, and I'm still kind of working on that. I'm still trying to do better, but this isn't like perfect. It's like good quality. If you like a more fluffy brush to apply cheek products, then this is a good one. It's just not my personal favorite. Next up I have the Cupid's Arrow number 6. This is the one that is dark blue. It's like a navy blue color. It's a really great formula, really easy to smudge out. It does stay well in a waterline. You can do so much with this. It's kind of like a chunky pencil. I would definitely recommend it, but this particular color, I just haven't really gotten into it. I haven't really gotten into using this navy blue. It's not my absolute favorite color for now. Maybe later it will be more of a favorite, but I just end up not really reaching for this one a lot. So it's like great quality. It's not about the quality. It's just a color. It's just a bit lower because of the color. Next up I have this Nabla Close-Up Lip Shaper in the shade number 1. I actually really like this liner formula. It's not too creamy, not too hard to apply. It has a nice stiffness to it, and you can apply it pretty precisely. This is a bit lower because it's not my perfect shade. I like my lip liners to be deeper than my actual lip color, and this is like the same depth, and that's just not what I reach for often. I sometimes reach for it. I like it. It's a good product. It's just not my absolute go-to favorite. I don't really go for this one. I think if I would have a deeper shade of this formula, then I would quite like it. I am wearing it today, by the way. I think it works out quite well, but it just kind of like adds some shape without adding a lot of definition, which I do like, because usually when I use a lip liner I want it to be a bit deeper so I can combine it with a bit of a lighter lip color. That's just what I personally like to do. So this is not really the fault of this lip liner. This lip liner is a good lip liner. It's just the shade of this one. Then next up I have another Cutie palette. This is the Cutie palette Wild Berry. And I feel like this one and the next one could kind of be interchanged. This is a very nice berry color story. I really like the shades in here. This Alchemy 2.0 is like the more sheer version of their Alchemy single eyeshadow. I really like this one. This is a palette that is a bit harder for me to wear. I don't know what it is about this, but I always feel a little bit intimidated by this palette. This Incense shade I don't like. I think it's not a very good shade. don't really like using that one. It's so crumbly. And then there's not really like a transition shade in here, and that makes it a little bit hard to do looks with just this palette. I think this would be a great palette for people with a bit of a deeper skin tone than I do, because these shades are just really like vibrant, impactful, and you can do like a pretty colorful, bright, warm look with this one. I have gone into this blackberry shade a lot in this palette. This one I really like. It's just not a palette that on its own really works for me personally. It's just, if I would have another shade instead of this incense one, I would be more into it. I would use it more, I think. It's just sometimes a bit hard to do a look with this one because it doesn't have the transition shade. I think maybe I should try to use this one more in combination with other palettes. Maybe I would like it more then. But it's just this color story is a little bit like harsh looking on me sometimes. It's a bit much for me sometimes. It's not like my go-to. I do like having this one. It's still a good palette. It's good quality. It's just, I know I don't reach for this one a lot. Then next up, and as I said, this could be kind of like interchanged, is the Cutie palette Analogue. Apparently the Cutie palettes are not my absolute favorites by Nabla, because we still have a lot of palettes coming after this, and this is the last Cutie palette in this ranking. This is a beautiful neutral color story with some warm tones and some cool tones. We have a range of shades. It goes from light to really deep. We have a bunch of different textures in here. I really like using this one. I think it's a great quality palette. It's a bit on the basic side. It's not the most interesting color story ever, but I do like that you can go warm or cool and kind of combine those shades. I really like the shade Overexposed. It's a peach to gold duochrome. I think this is a great palette, but it is a bit warm. Like, the transition shades are a bit warm for my liking. I usually go for something that's a bit cooler. Like, I like doing looks like this from time to time, definitely, but if we are talking about like absolute favorites, go-to palettes, then it's not gonna be something that is this warm. It's like it's pretty orangey warm. So it's just like a matter of taste and what I get excited about. And this is a good palette. I like it. I recommended it in my fall eyeshadow palettes. I would recommend it. There's just some other things that I'm more interested in. Then we have the first skin glazing product. We have the skin glazing in Independence. This is like a blush version of their skin glazing line. This is a baked gelée blush. It looks pretty like mauvey in the pan, but when you actually apply it to the cheeks, it's pretty warm. It's like pretty warm and bright. And because of that, I don't use it that much, because this is a bit of a confusing product to me. I'm a bit confused when I wear this. I bought this because I thought it was going to be more mauvey, but it's really warm. It's almost like blends out into like a bright coral orange, and that is something that, especially when I first got it, I wasn't really into. I only wore really cool tone blushes. Now I'm a bit more into warm tones, so now I'm a bit more into this blush, but I just want to know what things are gonna look like. I just want to know what I can expect, and because of this formula, it just looks so different in the pan than it actually is on the cheeks. It just blends out really bright, and I've had this in my project pan. This rotation, this is in my project pan, and I actually like it more now than I did before. And I think it's a really nice formula. I really like the packaging on these. It's a good product. It's just not really the color that I expected. It's really, really bright, and because of that, I just haven't gotten into it that much, and it's not like my all-time favorite, but I do still really like it. Then the next product is another Dreamy Creamy liquid lipstick. This is in the shade Hedonist. This is what I'm wearing today, but I've been talking for a long time before this, so it kind of already wore off a little bit. It already doesn't look that shiny anymore, but this Dreamy Creamy line, it's like really like thick, glossy, creamy, not too smeary, but if you like talk for a long time and not really pay attention, it can kind of get a little bit messy. I always have to be a little bit careful, but with the neutral shades I can live with that, and I don't mind it that much. Of course, when I film videos, I talk for a really long time. That's not really what I do. Like, when I'm not filming, that's not really what's gonna happen usually then. So definitely then I don't mind it that much. They are like long wearing enough. You just have to be a little bit like mindful that they could move a little bit. So this is kind of like a neutral nude shade. When you first apply it, it's really shiny. It kind of wears down after a while. It becomes more of a satin look. I think this is a really nice hydrating formula. It feels a little bit minty almost on the lips, a little bit cooling, which I don't mind. To me, like, mintiness isn't really necessary in lip products, but it's like something to mention. So yeah, this one is a little bit lower than the other one that I have because the shade is just like a nice basic nude shade, and I just like the other shade a little bit better. It's a little bit more like my taste and style, but I've worn this a lot. I've reached for these neutral shades, neutral tones in the Dreamy Creamy line a lot, and I really like this. The next spot goes to the single eyeshadows, and right now I don't really have them together. I just have them like scattered in different palettes, but here I have a few. I have this one called Capsize, I believe. I will put some swatches on the screen so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Then we have this one called Nude, and this one is called Water Dream. Water Dream is one of the best ones. If you get one, get Water Dream. It's so nice. It's like a see-through champagne base with like a lot of shimmer, and it's really textured and such a good shade to kind of like put on top of any look and add that texture and dimension to the look. Overall, I quite like the single eyeshadows by Nabla, but they are not all created equal. Some of the shimmers are more shimmery, some of the shimmers are more impactful, but some just are a little bit dry, so it kind of depends. I have a video up on my channel, a bit of an older video, where I talk about the Nabla singles that I have, that is still relevant, that is still up to date. I will link it in the description box. There you can see which ones I like, which ones I don't. I think the matte ones, most of the matte ones that I've tried, I really like. Most of the like normal shimmers that I've tried, I really like. When it comes to like the dimensional shimmers, some are better than others. Just check that out. I think that the quality in the palettes is a bit better. It kind of depends what you're looking at, but it's a bit better than the quality in the singles. But they have some really nice options. If you're checking out the Nabla singles and if you're thinking about buying them, I would suggest waiting for a sale. On Black Friday, they usually have pretty good sales. Last year they had 50% off, and then it's definitely worth to check some out. I think if you're thinking about buying them, I would probably suggest checking out their mattes. They have a very nice line of mattes, and then going for a few of their like normal shimmers, and then grabbing a few of the more interesting sparkly shades to see if you like that. Yeah, these are not like my absolute top favorites. Those are the palettes that I'm gonna talk about in a bit, but I do really like the range of shades that they have, and I do really like most of the singles that I own. There are just a few that I'm like, those are a little bit less like interesting, special, or like creamy. So that's why they're kind of like in the middle and not at the top. For the next spot, I have another Cupid's Arrow. This one is in 7. This is kind of like a purpley maroon shade. It's like a little bit of a warm purple neutral color. I wear this a lot. This is a great shade for me because I love neutral looks that have a little bit of a hint of purple in them, because I think that looks really good with green eyes. So this is my favorite shade of the two that I have from this Cupid Arrow. It's just such a good product. It lasts a long time. You can also wear it in a waterline. You can smudge it out. You can do so many things with it, and it's just a really easy product to use. It's a little bit more expensive than your usual like eyeliner, but I definitely think these are worth it. I've used this one so many times. I'm also wearing it in my waterline today. It's a great product. I would definitely recommend maybe trying one sometime. It's just, if you like a little bit of a smoky liner look, then this is a perfect product for that, because they are so pigmented, smooth, easy to smudge, but long lasting. You can get really like an impactful look without it looking too harsh. The next spot goes to this lip gloss, the Shine Theory lip gloss in the shade Stardust Radio. This is like a sheer red, like a sheer warm red with golden sparkle in there. This is such a comfortable shiny, beautiful lip gloss that has a nice scent to it as well. I also really like the packaging on this. This looks very fresh on the lips, kind of like adding a bit of sparkle and adding a bit of that red. It's like a really nice spring summer look, I think. Like if you like sheer red lips, this is one I would definitely recommend you check out. I love wearing this one with a lip liner as well. This is a great product, so nice and comfortable. Before I bought this, I've been looking for a sheer red lip gloss for such a long time, and this is like perfect. This is exactly what I wanted. So yeah, I'm really happy with this one. This is definitely a favorite. I love this gloss formula. Next up we have this Nabla Skin Bronzing in shade Ambra. This is kind of like a neutral soft brown. This is kind of like a neutral shade, kind of on the lighter side. It has that beige formula, which makes it a bit less pigmented, a bit harder to pick up, but if you go in, like really go in, you can get quite an impactful pigmented look. You just really have to dig in sometimes a little bit to really get it on your brush, but once it is on, it's a beautiful look. It's like a really nice natural sheen, which I love when it comes to bronzers. I love the shade on this. It's not too warm, it's quite neutral. I just really love the Skin Glazing line of Nabla. I think they did so well. Like, they did such a good job when it comes to their cheek products in this line. And I just really love wearing this bronzer. I love using it. This is like one of my favorite bronzers in my collection. I keep grabbing for this. I just really love how easy it is to apply and blend. You just have to build it up a little bit, but it's like really difficult to mess up. I really personally like when a bronzer is not too lightly pigmented, but still you have the option to kind of build it up and slowly blend it out, and that you definitely have with this skin bronzing. I really love it. So my favorite Dreamy Creamy liquid lipstick is this one in the shade Eve. It's pretty similar to Hedonist, but this one is a bit more peachy pink, which I think is really flattering on me. I love the shade, I love this undertone. I love wearing this one. I think it just looks so flattering on the lips. I love the creaminess that this has. Especially in the winter, I go into the shade and use this shade a lot. The fact that this is my favorite is like personal preference. If you like more of a neutral nude and not so much of a pinky nude, then I would definitely go for Hedonist. Alright, we're getting into the top 4. We're getting into my top favorites. Of course, that Eve one was already like one of my absolute favorites. That was number 5. Now for number 4. I went with the Dreamy 2, the Mystic palette. This one, I thought about buying this one for such a long time. I wasn't sure if I wanted to get this one at first because I hadn't really tried a lot of Nabla at this point, and I didn't know if this color story was really gonna work for me. I thought it was a bit of a strange color story, but when I got it, I realized that a lot of these shades are a little bit different, are a little bit deeper and different in undertone than what it looks like on photos. For example, this shade I thought was gonna look really warm, but it's a really nice neutral brown that's a little bit deeper than I thought it was gonna be. These kind of like bricky tones work really well in the crease with these shades, like with the shimmers that we have in this palette. I think this is such a interesting color story. I love this color story. It's so inspiring to me, and I love the textures in here. Also love the whole vibe of this palette, like this mysterious vibe. I think it's so cool. There are some really pretty shimmers in here. I've done so many beautiful looks with this palette. This is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. It's so good. I really love the shade called Libertine. It's so textured that it's almost like, is this a pressed glitter? But it isn't. It's like the most textured dimensional shimmer I think I've seen from Nabla. It's not like a duochrome. It's not dimensional in that way, but it has a lot of like micro fine shimmers in there. This lilac-y purpley shimmer here called Mirabilia is also very beautiful, and this shade called Hidden Place is like the most perfect grungy shimmer for like fall and winter. It's like an olive gray to a grungy purple, and I think that looks so beautiful on the lid. It's such a nice duochrome, almost like a multi-chrome, but like in a really soft way. This palette really surprised me by how much I loved it. I just didn't know at first if I was gonna like see the looks with this palette, if this was gonna give me what I wanted, but it's like really versatile. It's not that hard for me to think of looks. It's pretty easy for me to think of looks, and it just makes me a bit more creative. I just think this is a great palette. I really enjoy this palette. It's so many different textures in there, different colors. There's so much you can do. I love this. Then a palette that is like a staple in my collection, that's really one of the neutral palettes that I reach for the most, is the Side by Side Nude palette. This is one of their kind of newer palettes in their collection. This is a beautiful neutral color story. We have cool tones, we have neutrals, we have some warmer tones that are a little bit of that bricky red undertone. We also have a lot of different textures in here. Some more shimmery shades, some satin, some regular shimmers. I love this palette. I think this is great quality. You have so many options. It is neutral, but it still inspires me. You can go many different routes. You can do softer looks. You can do so many things with this. I also did a really beautiful like warm smoky brown look with this. I love this palette. It's great for everyday looks, but you can also spice up the look a little bit, make it a little bit more smoky. So yeah, this is a great one. I would highly recommend it. It's like a neutral palette, but it doesn't bore me in any way. It's like an inspiring neutral color story. And then for number 2, this is a palette that I actually realized this year how much I loved it. Before, I didn't know I loved it that much, but then I put it in my Shop My Stash and I realized how inspiring this one was to me. So this is a Dreamy palette. This, I also talked about this in my top 3 palettes in my collection, because this is in my top 3 palettes in my collection because I love it so much. This is a neutral color story with kind of like pops of color that go together with neutrals like really well. You can just amp up the look a little bit. I really love the shimmers in here. They are not like textured or dimensional, but they are really creamy and shiny, and I actually really love that. You can do so much with this palette. You can go a little bit more colorful, but you can also keep it quite neutral. I love the shade called Illusion. It's like the most base. My card was full, so where was I? This Illusion shade. It's like the most basic neutral crease shade, but I love it so much. I love doing like a little bit more of a peachier look, but also a little bit more of a purple tone look. You can also go quite pink. I love the Senorita shade. It's so gorgeous. I think this inspires me so much because I can do softer neutral looks, but give it a little bit of an unexpected twist, which I really like when it comes to makeup. I would highly recommend this palette. I love the mattes in here, beautiful shimmers. This is really like the type of color story that I would choose for myself. This is also kind of what encompasses my makeup style. I love combining neutrals with colors. I love pinks and peaches. I love like shiny shimmers. I don't always go in the most textured shades. I do love that as well. That's also something I'm really into, but this type of shiny metallic, just really creamy metallic formula, also it has my heart. It does. So if you have watched me before, then you most definitely know what's gonna be my first. You have to know. I talk about this product so much. It's like you can't miss it. You can't miss that I haven't talked about it yet. And it's the Skin Glazing highlighter in the shade Privilege. This is in my project pan. I use this almost every day now. I use this all the time. I haven't used it today, but I go into this highlighter like there's no tomorrow, and it doesn't bore me at all. I'm still as excited to use this. So when this first launched, I actually didn't know if it was special enough. I was thinking about it for such a long time. I thought I had found something that was kind of similar. Then in the end I got it and I was like, okay, no, there's nothing that compares to this. There's just no formula and color that gives me the sheen, the beautiful glowy skin-like sheen that this one does. It's like so glowy, but it looks like it's your skin and it's so beautiful. I love the shade of this. It's a little bit deeper than most champagne highlighters. It has a bit of a rosy hint there, like peachy pink, which I love. When I first used it, I was a little bit on the fence about it because you have this first layer when it comes to this product. It's a bit harder to pick up, but once you're past that layer, it's like so easy to get kind of a blinding effect that still looks very flattering. I love this highlighter so much. It's like everything I want in a highlighter. It just gives a little bit of a warm glow to the skin and it just looks like part of your skin. It's so easy to blend. It looks so beautiful. There's nothing that compares to this in my collection. Maybe the closest thing would be some of the Kiko highlighters that I've tried. They're kind of like similar-ish, but this is just so good. This skin glazing line, it's something that you have to experience. It's something that you have to try. You can't really know how good this is until you try it. Every day I get to use this. Every day I'm like, okay, let's use this highlighter again. I'm just so excited and I love how my cheeks look. And I also kind of like blend it into the blush and it gives such a beautiful glowy effect. There's no shimmer in this at all, so if you don't like shimmers, you can definitely use this highlighter. This also doesn't emphasize any texture on me. I think this will look very good if you have a little bit of a textured skin. I can't say enough good things about this highlighter. It's just so good. It's just my absolute favorite. I haven't used anything that is like this. And it might seem a bit basic in the pan, but it's just such a beautiful color on the cheeks. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hit pan on this. Now that I've put it in my project pan, I just use it every time I feel like it. Like I use this 80% of the time. It's so good. So that's gonna be everything for my Nabla ranking. Let me know if you have tried any of these products. Are you planning to pick any of them up? I love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it and don't forget to subscribe, and then I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.